Shalom, shalom, shalom. I want to welcome everyone to King James Bible University. I'll be your host this evening, Elder Lynn. My brothers and sisters, we'll be taking a look at a pretty interesting teaching on this evening. And the heading of this teaching, for the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord. For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord. My brothers and sisters, despite what one may think, our ways are never hid from the Most High God. We have a lot of individuals, especially those that are caught up into this web in these buildings. A lot of them think that they could literally hide things from the Most High God, whether it be the things that they're eating or the things that they're doing. But we must understand one thing, for the ways of man are before the understanding of the Spirit of God. There is nothing hid from the God that we serve. I want you to clearly understand that. So if there are any here that believe that they can physically hide something from the Most High God, even a thought, you're sadly mistaken. Because the Most High God sees all and He hears all. I want you to clearly understand that. For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Spirit of God. So my brothers and sisters, I hope you have your notebook, pad, ink, pen, and paper, and as always, most importantly, your Bible. Now let's get started. And we'll get started right here in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 16, verse 17, and it's recorded. For mine eyes are upon all their ways. They are not hid from my face, neither is there iniquity hid from mine eyes. Exactly the point. So just as we were speaking earlier, just as we started this teaching about not being able to hide anything from the Most High God, it is impossible that one could do such a thing. Keep one thing in mind, the Most High God created everything around us, including ourselves. So it's impossible that we could hide anything from Him, whether it be something that we've done or even a thought that runs through our head. There is nothing that can be hid from the Most High God. So from here, let's go to Psalms. Psalms chapter 90. And we're going to hit verse 8. And it's recorded. Thou hast set our iniquities before thee, our secret sins in the light of thy countenance. Exactly the point. There's nothing hid before our God. From here, let's go to Psalms chapter 50. And we're going to hit verses 21 and 22. And it's recorded. These things have thou done, and I kept silence, for thought thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself. But I will reprove, correct thee, and set them in order before thine eyes. Now consider this, ye that forget Yahweh, lest I tear you in pieces, and including there be none to deliver you. So we need to understand, my brothers and sisters, that this walk that we're on is very serious. We need to take it as such, and for those of us that think too lightly while on this journey, you need to change your mindset, because God is dead serious about the things that we need to follow according to His way. And we need to understand, my brothers and sisters, that this is not a game that we're playing. You know, our life is on the line, and we need to clearly understand that there are things recorded here in the Word of God that could show us all of the things that we need to do. There are a ton of information here locked in Scripture, but it also shows us the things that we have done and what the outcome will be shall we continue on that path, providing we're to the left side of the plumb line. So we're without excuse, my brothers and sisters. I want you to clearly understand that. So we need to continue on this journey doing those things that's pleasing to God, and to constantly do those things that's required of us. See, if we continue to hold our end of the bargain, God is just to hold up his agreement that he's made with us. We have to believe that. We have to have faith in that. We have to grow in that, because keep in mind, it's not about the flesh that we're in. It's always been about the spirit. So this flesh that we're in, it gives us and shows us what sin looks like. It comes directly from the heart and enters into your thought. And if you constantly think upon that, then it becomes iniquity. What is iniquity? It's the act of sin. So we need to constantly hold to the ways of our God, for the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, always. There's nothing that can get past the Most High God. I want you to keep that in mind as we're going through this teaching. So let's reiterate these two texts again. Psalms chapter 50, verse 21 and 22. These things have thou done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself. But however, I will reprove, correct thee, and set them in order before thine eyes. Now consider this, ye that forget Yahweh, lest I tear you in pieces, and there be none to deliver. From here, let's go to Jeremiah chapter 32, and we'll hit verse 19. And it's recorded, great in counsel and mighty in work, for thine eyes, thy understanding are open upon all the ways of the sons of men. Exactly the point. To give every one according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. So those children that you are rearing on this journey, which is your works, those things that you're bringing forth, is going to dictate, again, the side of the plumb line that you have chosen for yourself, because your actions are going to be a response to the way that you have chosen. Your talk, your speech, all of those things will be according to the side of what side of the plumb line you have chosen for yourself. Great in counsel and mighty in work, for thine eyes are opened upon all the ways of the sons of men, to give every one according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. So according to those things that you're doing, God is going to judge accordingly to that, because it's what you have chosen. It's the side of the plumb line you have chosen to walk. Those things that are of interest to you. See, we got to understand something, my brothers and sisters. Despite those things that we once have done, we can't be given a pass because we didn't know that we were doing it. Sure, we didn't know that we were sinning against our God, because we thought we were doing everything according to the ways of God. I mean, even though we weren't reading and we were going into this building and we were doing accordingly to what we saw everyone else doing. Not only that, but how our parents have raised us accordingly. So we thought for sure that we were doing these things that was correct. But now that we have been a recipient of the truth and learning what those truths are and being in error as we have found out, then that response deserves a change. See, once we have come to the knowledge of the truth, my brothers and sisters, we can't go back to that old way of living, because now we understand that that's a way of death. So if we understand that, then we understand that the ways of the Spirit is life. So it really all boils down to what you have chosen for yourself. It all boils down to the election that you have made. We have to hold to the agreement. We have to hold to it. There is no other way of looking at it. We have to hold to that way that we agreed upon with our God, because anything short of that is going to cause a problem forever for us. That won't be something that'll be temporary. If we was to turn from the ways of God after committing ourselves unto Him and to turn back to that old way of living, we would bring eternal damnation upon ourselves as a result of our thinking, or as a result of us wanting to go back to the old way of living. It's going to cost us. For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, always. We need to hold to the agreement, my brothers and sisters. It's imperative that we understand that. Great in counsel and mighty in work, for thine eyes are opened upon all the ways of the sons of men, to give everyone according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doing. From here, let's go to Psalms. Let's go back to Psalms chapter 33, and let's hit verse 13 through 15. And it's recorded. The Spirit of God looketh from heaven for a thought. He beholdeth all the sons of men from the place of his habitation. He looketh upon all the inhabitants of the earth. He fashioneth their hearts alike for a thought. He considereth all of their works. Exactly the point. Because he's constantly looking upon the ways of his people. We need to clearly understand that. He's constant with that, my brothers and sisters. So we have to make sure that we're doing those things that's pleasing to our God. We got to make sure we receive our Oma daily. We have to make sure there is nothing in the field that's going to affect the harvest. We always have to make sure that the fruits that are growing in this field, that's you, we have to always make sure that those things that are being harvested are those things that's of God. Keep in mind, it's from the seed that he planted within us. So we have to constantly hold to that weight. We have to constantly grow into that image. Because anything less than that, it's not going to benefit us at all. Are you with me? So we have to always hold to God's way as we clearly understand according to his word. So from here, let's take a look at 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles chapter 16, and that's at verse 9. And it's recorded. For the understanding of the Spirit of God run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. Herein thou hast done foolishly. Therefore, for this reason, from henceforth thou shalt have wars. So we're going to always have a battle with the spirit and the flesh. There's always going to be a war there, my brothers and sisters, because we have completely turned to the side of the ways of God that caused us this problem. That's why the eyes of the Most High God is always upon his people. It's always upon them, because once we have committed ourselves unto him, then he's going to always look upon that which we do. He's going to always look upon those things and what our communication and our speech is. All of these things are going to be important, my brothers and sisters. So we have to always conform into his image, despite the challenges that's set before us. Again, we may run into issues that's debatable and that's argumentative. We have to always know how to respond to those type of situations, because those are tests and trials that we're going to have to go through. So all of these things are important, and as we're on this journey, we have to always keep these things in mind. Now, if there are things that we struggle with, or anything of that nature, we need to use those things as a fringe. So when we're thinking upon these things and we want to know how to respond to that which we use as a fringe. We want to make sure that we're doing those things that's pleasing to God, and to make sure that we're doing those things that's going to benefit us from learning of the ways of our God. All of these things are important to us. Okay? So 2 Chronicles 16:9, for the eyes of the Spirit of God run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. Exactly the point. Herein thou hast done foolishly. Therefore from henceforth thou shalt have wars. From here, let's go to Zechariah. Zechariah chapter 4 and verse 10. And it's recorded, for who hath despised the day of small things? Question, for they shall rejoice and shall see the plummet. So we know this, we are speaking of this plumb line and the power of Zerubbabel. Watch this, with those 7. For a thought, they are the eyes of the Spirit of God, which run to and fro through the whole earth. What? Those 7. The eyes of the Spirit of God. From here, let's go to Haggai, pull some information. Haggai chapter 2, and we're going to hit verse 3. And it's recorded, who is left among you that saw this house in her first glory? And how do ye see it now? Are you with me? Is it not in your understanding and comparison of it as nothing? Let's go somewhere. Let's go to Tobit. Pull some information. Tobit chapter 4. Tobit chapter 14. And verse 5. And it's recorded, and that again Yahweh will have mercy on them and bring them again into the land where they shall build a temple. But however, not like the first, until the time of that age be fulfilled, full thought. And afterward they shall return from all places of their captivity and build up Jerusalem gloriously, and including the house of the Spirit of God, or Yahweh, shall be built in it forever, with a glorious building as the prophets have spoken thereof. Are you with me? From here, let's go back to Zechariah chapter 3, and we're going to hit verse 9. And it's recorded, for remember, behold, the stone that I have laid before Joshua, for thought, upon one stone shall be 7 eyes. Remember, behold, I will engrave the engraving thereof, saith the Spirit of God of hosts, and I will remove the iniquity of that land in one day. From here, let's go to Exodus. Exodus chapter 28, and let's hit verse 11. And it's recorded, with the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be set in ouches of gold. From here, let's hit verse 21. And it's recorded, and the stones shall be with the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, according to their way, like the engraving of a signet. For thought, every one with his name, with his way, shall there be according to the 12 tribes. So we see, my brothers and sisters, the Most High God's eyes is always upon his people. It's always upon Israel. We have to understand, my brothers and sisters, that we have to respond to the truth one way or the other when it comes to us, because I can assure you it's going to come. And we have to make a choice at that very moment of what side of the plumb line that we're going to walk. Because one thing's for certain is that We can't allow constantly these things of the world to get into our way, to cause us to make bad decisions, my brothers and sisters. That's the whole purpose of us learning the ways of our God. That's the whole purpose of us studying to show ourselves approved. We have to go into the Bible and search and dig for the truth of God's word. God said he will send you pastors according to his heart that's going to feed you with the understanding of his word. So if we are not being receptive of these men that God has entrusted his word in to feed you with the truth of his word, then we do ourselves a disservice, because we're always going to hold to the left side of the plumb line and always hold to what we think to be true, listening to these men in these buildings. That's going to cause us a problem, because we have to get out of the habit of seeing these men as the same that God sent from his heart to feed us with his truth. These men are nowhere close to that. That's a complete 100% separation. They have whatever it is that they do in that building. And God's pastors do what they do in terms of teaching and explaining his truth to his people. See, everybody is not going to be a recipient of the truth. That we know. But those that are called to his truth are going to respond. Now, that being said, those that are respond to learning of his ways and preparing their heart to receive truth, we have to hold to that. Because there are probably going to be some to turn away from it. We clearly must understand that. Let's take a look. Let's pivot just for a moment. Wasn't in the teaching, but we'll go there just to make the point. Let's go to Matthew. Matthew 13, and let's start right here at 21, I believe. Better yet, let's just start here at 19, and we'll read down a couple of verses, or a few verses. And it's recorded. It says, when anyone heareth the word of the kingdom and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one, and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. This is he which received seed by the wayside, following after his own heart. But however, he that received the seed in stony places, the same is he that heareth the word, and anon with joy receiveth it. Yet hath he not root in himself, exactly the point, because he's not going to hold to it. But however doeth for a while, for when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended, exactly the point. So now he's going to turn loose. We could be faced with difficult decisions to make, whether it be on our job or whether it be for health issues, no matter what they can be. Sometimes we're placed in these situations to make this decision. So a lot of times we'll go for the latter. All it's got to do is sound good. We have to remember, my brothers and sisters, it's not about this flesh. It's not about this flesh. Now, I do understand that you want to make those decisions when it deals with your health. You want to make those right choices, of course. But we have to make sure that we're leaning on the Most High God when we're making these decisions. Because he gives us those things. He gives us that counsel. He gives us that advice on what to choose, if providing we're holding to his way. That's the point. But we have to keep in mind that we have to trust in our God. See, a lot of times when we're faced with these decisions, then a lot of us, our faith starts to waver. But that's the whole point of these tests and trials, my brothers and sisters. That's the whole point of us doing our studies. That's the whole point of learning from these teachings, because all of these things build you up in your trust in the Most High God and your faith. All of these build you up for those challenges and for those things that could be a stumbling block for you. See, we have to trust in the Most High God. Now, that's going to be tough because we can't see the Most High God. The only thing that we have is his word. So we have to trust in that. We have to allow Jehovah to lead us back to the Most High God. Despite what those decisions we have to make, despite the way we have to go, we have to hold to it. But again, a lot of us are going to turn from it. That's the point. That's what brought us here. Let's reiterate verse 20 again, Matthew 13:20. But he that received the seed in stony places, the same is he that heareth the word, and anon with joy receiveth it. Yet hath he not root in himself, but dureth for a while. For in tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended. Verse 22, he also that receives seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he become unfruitful. Why? Because he's holding to the ways of the world. He has become used to those things. All of these things have surfaced again in his thinking, and he has turned away from truth, turned away from life, and back unto death. Are those things going to happen? Yeah, 100%. Because if those of us that turn from it, yet hath he not root in himself, that's the point. So now when those challenges are coming before him, and he's really leaning towards that fleshly way of thinking, he'll start to think of the things or think in the ways that he once did. And that draws him back to the left side of the plumb line. Because his faith is not as strong as it should be. That's the point. That's the whole purpose of the teachings. That's the whole purpose of us studying and reading and for ourselves. Because it strengthens those areas where we're weak. For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord all the time. Are you with me? So let's read this one other text, verse 23. And it's recorded. But he that receives seed in the good ground is he that heareth the word and understandeth it for thought, which also beareth fruit and bringeth forth some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. That's the whole point. Because it's going to give us strength, it gives us counsel, it gives us advice, it gives us life, it gives us direction, it gives us all of these things. What? The word. That's why we have to become strong in these places where we're weak. Because if not, then we're going to allow those things of the world to pull us back over into that way of living. We can't afford that, okay? So from here, let's reiterate Exodus 28 and 21. And it's recorded. And the stone shall be with the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their name, according to their ways, like the engravings of a signet. Every one with his name shall they be according to the 12 tribes. From here, let's go to Job. Job chapter 28 and verse 24. And it's recorded. For he looketh to the ends of the earth and seeth under the whole heaven. Who? Yahweh. Are you with me? From here, let's go to Psalms. Psalms chapter 11. And let's hit verse 4. And it's recorded. For the Spirit of God is in his holy temple. The Spirit of God's throne is in heaven. His eyes, behold, his eyelids try the children of men all of the time. We have to always understand these things, my brothers and sisters. We have to always understand these things. From here, Let's go to Revelation. Revelation chapter 4, and let's hit verse 2. And it's recorded. And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne, which is who? The inherent Word of God, the power, the Most High Himself. Only one throne in heaven. One. I want you to clearly understand that. What sits to the right hand of the Father? The inherent power, the glory of the Most High God. I want you to clearly understand that. We have to always understand, my brothers and sisters, what thus says the Most High God. Are you with me? From here, let's go to 1 Kings. 1 Kings chapter 22 and verse 19. And it's recorded. And he said, Hear thou, therefore, for this reason, the word of the Spirit of God. I saw the Spirit of God sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing by him on his right hand, and including on his left. From here, let's go to Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 21. And it's recorded. For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Spirit of God, and he pondereth all his goings. Exactly the point. Always looking upon that, always measuring those things of his people. We have to make sure, my brothers and sisters, that we're doing those things that's pleasing unto our God. That's the whole idea of us learning of his ways and ridding ourselves of this, those things that we have once done. See, it's going to always be an issue with us, my brothers and sisters, because we have this flesh imputed upon us. But we have to understand that there is a way of walking before God that we could clear those hurdles. And the way that we do that, we hold to his way. We constantly learn of his way and learn of those things that we must do to be successful on this journey. See, we can't have it our way. We can't always, we've done that once before. And it causes us problems every time we go in that direction. So if we understand that if we're going opposite of the ways of God, it always comes out wrong, then we should always want to hold to his way, because we don't want to make those same mistakes that we once did. Keep that in mind, because if we have learned of what we have done and constantly learning those things that we have done and how we've done them and how to correct that behavior, then we have to hold to the ways of God, because if we go back to that way of living, then we clearly understand Hebrews 10:26. Let's go there. Let's not just speak of it. We'll come back. Hebrews chapter 10, and we're going to hit verse 26. And it's recorded. For if we sin willfully after we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins. Exactly the point. Because now we have seen the error of our ways. We have learning of them. And as we're learning of those things that even now that we're doing that we're unaware of, once we find those things out, then we have to purge those things. We have to cut those things away. But the point that a lot of us are going to do, we're going to hold to it, because we missed doing this or we missed doing that. And if that becomes an issue, this verse is for you, because now you have been a recipient of the truth. So anytime we go back after we have been we have found out what those truths are, then we do ourselves a huge disservice if we were to go back to that way of living. That won't benefit us, because now that's willful sin, because we know the truth of what we have done. So we can't go back to that. We have to constantly move forward, my brothers and sisters, because even though a lot of us want to go back to this way of living, we have to clearly understand one thing: the flesh is temporary. So if you're wanting to go back to a temporary way of living, keep one thing in mind: that temporary way of living brings about death. I want you to clearly understand that. For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Spirit of God. So let's go back to our teaching, and we'll reiterate verse 21 again. For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Spirit of God, and he pondereth all his goings. From here, let's go to Psalms. Psalms 119, and we're going to hit verse 168. Oh, shoot. I'm going to hit verse 168, my brothers and sisters. It don't seem like it's going to allow me to go back, so we'll come another direction. So Psalms 119 and verse 168, and it's recorded: I have kept thy precepts and thy testimonies, for all my ways are before thee. Exactly the point. Why? Because we always are in the eyes of the Most High God. Are you with me? We're always in the eyes of the Most High God. So it's important that we walk and hold to his way, because if we know that his eyes is always upon us, then we want to be pleasing in his sight and holding to those things that's pleasing unto him. That's the purpose. So we don't want to go off track, okay? So from here, let's go to Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 15. And we'll hit verse 3. And it's recorded: For the eyes of the Spirit of God are in every place, beholding the evil and including the good. Exactly the point. So we're never hiding anything from our God. Keep that in mind. From here, let's go to Hebrews and pull some information. Hebrews chapter 4. We're going to hit right here at verse 13. And it's recorded: Neither is there any creature that is not manifest, made known in his sight. Whose sight? The Most High God. But however, all things are naked and open unto the eyes of him with whom we have to do. Exactly the point. Always open to those things, because we can't hide them. Keep in mind, God created us, but a lot of times we think that we can hide from God. It's just like we had mentioned earlier on in this teaching. And if we have that mindset, that's a mindset we clearly need to lose, because there's nothing that you could do to hide anything from the Most High God. Absolutely nothing. So if we're constantly thinking of those things, we do ourselves wrong. Because now we think that we could do certain things and not be held accountable for it. But what you don't realize is those things are being recorded daily. Keep that in mind. Every time we're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, these things are going to be recorded. I want you to clearly understand that, because we always have to keep in mind that the ways of the Most High God, his eyes are always upon us. So just understanding and knowing that would want us to be cautious in the things that we do. We want to make sure that we're doing those things that's according to his word. We want to make sure we're doing those things that's pleasing to our God. So we need to keep our focus. Okay? So from here, let's go to Sirach and pull some information. To some Ecclesiasticus. Sirach chapter 15, and let's hit verse 19 and 20. And it's recorded. And his eyes are upon them that desire him, and he knoweth every work of man. Exactly the point. He hath commanded no man to do wickedly, neither hath he given any man license to sin. So when people always want to turn back to that old way of living, and they always say, well, you know, they always got an excuse for doing something, or they always have an excuse for not doing something. I did this because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have never done it. All of these excuses. And only flesh comes up with this type of mindset. That's why it's important for us to kill off this flesh. See, because if we hold to the ways of flesh, then we're going to constantly have this war of why we've done something or why we didn't do something that we should have done. We always have an excuse for it. Well, if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't have done that. But I had to do this because of this. I'm telling you, we can't get past that. There's always a but there. So let's reiterate these two texts again. Sirach 15, 19, and including 20. And his eyes are upon them that desire him, and he knoweth every work of man. He hath commanded no man to do wickedly, neither hath he given any man license to sin. From here, let's go to Sirach 23. And we're going to hit verses 19 and 20. And it's recorded. Such a man only feareth the eyes of men, and knoweth not that the eyes of the Creator are 10,000 times brighter than the sun, beholding all the ways of men, and considering the most secret parts. He knew all things ever they were created, for thought. So also after they were perfected, he looked upon them all. Exactly the point. See, we got to understand, my brothers and sisters, we serve a God that knows exactly what we're going to do, when we're going to do it, and for what reason we have done it. And every time we do something that we shouldn't have done, it's always stupid. It's always a thought that we probably had in our head that we can get away with. Instead of just thinking things through and understanding what it is that we need to do, we sometimes, without even considering that, just do what we do. And that causes a rift between us and the Most High God. We got to get out of that way of thinking, my brothers and sisters. We have to hold to his way and his way alone. We have to hold to his way, because if we're not going to do that, then if we go our way, then you know what that's going to cause. Keep that in mind. So from here, let's go to Sirach, some Ecclesiasticus. We'll stay in the same book, chapter 11, and let's hit verse 26. And it's recorded. For it is an easy thing unto the Creator in the day of death to reward a man according to his ways. Because it's all about us holding to his way. So if we go off track and we want to do those things according to what we want to do, keep in mind what that can cause. So from here, let's go to Sirach 17. And we're going to hit 15 to 17. And it's recorded. Their ways are ever before him, and shall not be hid from his eyes. Every man from his youth is given to evil, Neither could they make to themselves fleshly hearts for stoning. For in the division of the nations of the whole earth, he set a ruler over every people for thought. But watch this. But however, Israel is the Creator's portion, exactly the point. So his eyes is always upon Israel. Always. Always upon Israel. From here, as we wind down this teaching, let's go to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 20. And it's recorded. But the Spirit of God hath taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, out of bondage, to be unto him a people of inheritance, and as ye are this day. So if we're holding to the ways of God, then we're his inheritance, but we have to hold to his way. That's the only way we can receive life, because if we go back to the left side of the plumb line, you clearly understand what that brings about. From here, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 15. And it's recorded, only the Spirit of God hath a delight in thy fathers to promise them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above all people, as it is this day. So we clearly see, my brothers and sisters, it ain't that we chose the Most High God. God has chosen us. He has chosen those of us that he wants to have his truth. Everyone's not going to be a recipient of it, but the seed is planted in all of Israel. Keep that in mind. Now, a lot of us, again, are going to, those of us, it's going to be a lot of us to respond to to God's truth in a positive way. And then there are those that's going to respond negatively. A lot of us are not going to be a recipient of the truth, especially a lot of our people that's gone into these buildings, because they really do believe that they have truth there, when in fact they're constantly going in the wrong direction. And the thing that's most disturbing is the fact that they don't want to be told what the truth is. Even when you try to offer the truth and to show it and willing to show it to them, they're always in a defensive posture to protect that doctrine that they've already received, and ready to debate you and argue about it. And that's the point. You don't argue or debate anything that's true. How do you do that? You can't win. It's already recorded. That's the point. For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Spirit of God, always. So from here, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 32. And we'll hit verse 9. And it's recorded, for the Spirit of God's portion is his people, exactly the point, for thought. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. So we have to understand, my brothers and sisters, we always have to respond to the ways of God, because it's just like, again, growing up. You know, we have to always be in before the lights come on. We have to be on the front before those lights come on. And anybody that's of my generation knows exactly what I'm speaking about. Whenever our parents left the home and we were still hanging out with our friends in the neighborhood, before they left, they would always inform us, we want you on the front porch or in the house before those lights come on. Now, if you were caught down the street after they have instructed you on what it is that you need to do, you had an issue with them when they came back. I want you to clearly understand that, because they gave you clear instruction as to what they wanted you to do. And it's the same way with the Most High God. So whenever God gives us an instruction and we do just the total opposite, we're going to be chastised for that. I want you to clearly understand that. Let's go somewhere. It wasn't in the teaching, but we'll go there. Let's go to Amos. Amos chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. And it's recorded. Hear this word that the Spirit of God hath spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family, the whole tribe, the whole nation, which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities. So the Most High God could care less about the rest of them. His focus is on you and what you need to do. Because if he has called you to his truth and you have responded in a positive manner, which is good, and for whatever reason, after a while, you want to go back to that old way of living, keep this in mind. That's going to bring about a visitation should you go back to that old way of living. And I can assure you that visitation, whenever the Most High comes to anyone with a visitation, I can assure you, you won't see the next minute, let alone the next second. I want you to clearly understand that. That's how serious this is, my brothers and sisters. For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Spirit of God. From here, let's go back to Sirach, the Psalm Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 15. And we're going to hit verses 18 through 20. Wait a minute. So we'll reiterate a couple of these texts. Just a second. Yes, we'll reiterate a couple of these texts. And it's recorded. For the wisdom of the Creator is great, and he is mighty in power, and beholdeth all things, and his eyes are upon them that desire him. He knoweth every work of man. He hath commanded no man to do wickedly, neither hath he given any man license to sin. Excuse me, my brothers and sisters, I gave you the wrong text. Let's go back. It should have been Sirach 17. Excuse me. It should have been Sirach 17. Excuse me. 18 through 20. And it's recorded. Whom being his firstborn, he nourisheth with discipline, and giving him the light of his promise doeth not forsake him. Therefore all their works are as the sun before him, and his eyes are continually upon their ways. Exactly the point. None of their unrighteous deeds are hid from him, but all their sins are before the Creator. Exactly the point. So we can't hide anything from our God, my brothers and sisters. We have to understand that his way is truth, and we have to hold to that. So if we veer off that path, and for whatever reason, we want to go back to that stupid way of living, that's going to cause death, 100%. Just understand that. That's going to cause death. So my brothers and sisters, we'll pull this last text, and it's found and recorded right here in the book of Tobit, chapter 4, and verse 19. And it's recorded. Bless the Creator, thy guide, always, and desire of him that thy ways may be directed, and that all the paths and counsels may prosper. For every nation hath not a counsel or thought, but however the Creator himself giveth all good things, and he humbleth whom he will, as he will. For thought, now therefore, my son, remember my commandments, neither let them be put out of thy mind. So my brothers and sisters, as we see that the ways of the Most High God are all, that the ways of man are always before the eyes of the Most High God, especially those of his inheritance. Those of us that have sealed this contract with our God to hold to his ways and his ways only. His eyes is always upon us. So we need to make sure, my brothers and sisters, that we're doing those things that's pleasing to our God and holding to his ways. We need to make sure that we're not doing those things that's causing us issues. See, we have to continue on this journey to reading and studying to show ourselves approved unto the Most High God. So we're able to track these landmines and these stumbling blocks. We have to be able to negotiate our path around these things so it won't cause us issues. And the only way that we can do that is reading and studying to show ourselves approved. So we have to hold to the ways of God and allow the Spirit of God to lead and direct our path always. So we can't leave that, my brothers and sisters. We have to hold to that because that's our life. That's our way of living. And if anything shorter than that we allow to happen, then I can assure you it's going to bring about death. So as always, my brothers and sisters, till the ground from whence you've come. Receive your Oma daily, and never let anyone pull you away from what you know to be true in God's word. So until we meet again, I say to each and every last one of you, Shalom.